What's up, ambitious immigrant? Today I'd like to talk to you about an amazing book I've been reading by Dave Ramsey. It's the Total Money Makeover. This book, I started reading it for about 3 days. It's not a long read. You can get the book also online, the audio version of it on Audible. It's 3 hours. And I learned a lot. Dave Ramsey is basically a financial expert when it comes to personal finance. And he's talked a lot and given a lot of ideas. And as I read so many books, different insights, I stumbled on this book and I'm very glad I read this book. So the thing is, this book actually shocked me. The initial shock is that it basically talks about, I'm going to share a couple of stories, right? Now I'm going to share from my own experience. From my experience when I came to America, there was one person who inspired me who was living a lifestyle that was really, pretty much lavish. He had an amazing, beautiful house, a couple of Benzes, a very beautiful office. Somebody who inspired me. He did great. He was somebody in real estate and lived in Atlanta. My cousin basically brought me there. He was a friend of my cousin. And we got to see the lifestyle he had. And that lifestyle inspired me greatly. To me, the way I was looking at it is just like, you know what? This is what we came to America for, to have this kind of lifestyle. And with all that, when the real estate market collapsed, as you all know, around 2009, and the financial market collapsed because of, people were giving loans to so many folks who couldn't afford it, and the market collapsed. What happened is that he lost pretty much everything. From what I heard, he moved out of Atlanta, he lost his house. So, it was a challenge for him because things got tough. And this is something that happens as a cycle, right? We've seen that times and times again. The main challenge there was that as a lot of people who come to America, they use debt to look rich. And that's a mistake that this book talks about, Total Money Makeover, where people struggle. They look good, but they don't feel good. It's almost like somebody who's sick, right? But they pretend things are all right. And it's really costly to do that. It's very costly. And, it comes with a lot of heartache. And there was also an example in the book, Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, where he talks about somebody who was, doing well, right? So just let's think about a typical family, making enough money together. They were making $75,000. The wife was making $45,000, the husband $30,000, and they were living a good life. They had about $18,000 in their 401k and $2,000 in their emergency fund. A nice house. They spent a lot of money on that, and so it was a really expensive house. So the lifestyle was just that all the money they were making was going into debt. A nice car payments, a couple of car payments. I mean, everybody was coming, and they were even coming to ask them for money. Everybody looks at them, they look great, everything is good. It's almost like people living by faith, right? The challenge was that when the wife lost her job, things started to fall apart. And very quickly, things started getting repossessed. The cars, the house, and they fell apart. And all that was because it was an inflated, lifestyle. We all come to America with that ambition of living large. But if you remember back home, we didn't have as much credit. So people, when they bought a house, it was theirs, right? So when you have a car, it's yours. So don't always be, the moral of the book basically is that don't look rich, but, actually live stupidly, because you never know what may happen. You may have faith, you may pray and everything else. But even the Bible says that those, basically, the person who borrows becomes a servant of the person who lends. I can find a verse later on. But the whole idea being that borrowing money is not good. It's not good. It's the opposite of getting rich. Instead of, buying things with your own money, using somebody else's money to buy things so that with the money you're going to make in the future, you're going to repay them, is not a great idea in general, right? The more leverage, the more you owe money, the more costly it's going to end up being. And with the risk, if one day the company goes bankrupt, you lose your job or something like that, things can fall apart quickly. So what does the book Total Money Makeover talk about? So Dave Ramsey talks about 7 baby steps. So with the 7 baby steps, basically, let me just start with the first one. The first baby step is you need to have $1,000 saved in an emergency fund. Oh, you can come. I'm gonna probably cut this part. Yeah. So Dave Ramsey talks about the 7 baby steps. The first baby step is having $1,000 saved in the emergency fund. So anybody can do that, right? So it's something you should be able to do quickly. Hopefully you already have $1,000 saved. So, this is just without judgment. I'm talking exactly about what Dave Ramsey talks about in his book. So with that, it allows you to have a way, if there is an emergency, a flat tire or something like that, you can use the money for emergencies. The second baby step, which to me is the hardest, right? What he says that you have to pay off all your debts, all of them, besides the mortgage debt. So what he says, the moral of the story is that debt is bad. So having car payments is not a good thing. I know it seems like, you get a lease, you get a loan for 6 years, you drive something that you don't really own, it makes you look good, everybody, it gives you the status. But in general, what he's saying is that the ideal goal, before getting rich, you need to pay off all that debt. So what he says is recommended is the snowball approach. The snowball approach means you, regardless of the interest, you take the lowest loans that you have, right? The one with the lowest balance to the highest. Let's say you have 5 credit cards. You take the one with the balance of, let's say, 500, and then the next one is 3,000, 5,000. So you start with the smallest one, you pay it off, and then you go to the next one. What he does is it helps you when it comes to motivation, because you see some results right away. Instead of starting with the biggest loan, which may take you forever, if the fact that you're paying off one after another, it motivates you. As you do all those, paying off all your car debts. Ideally, you want to get rid of all debt so that you don't even have car payments anymore. Those are, shackles, that are things that will slow you down when it comes to getting rich, because of the interest and because it's actually money that you've borrowed from the future that you haven't even made yet. So you're making less money as a result of that. And, once you pay those off, the student loans. So it's all the debts besides mortgage. So the whole idea is that baby step 2 is where most people will spend a lot of time. So you basically need to pay off all your debt besides your mortgage. That's not easy, but for him, that's part of the conversation of you becoming financially independent and rich, is having no debt. I know most of us, it feels like, you want to look good, having a nice car, driving around. And we've all made those mistakes. And the biggest mistake I made was, I'd say, a little while ago, probably after I got my first job out of college, I had this need of just wanting to buy a brand new car. I bought a brand new car, like 0 miles. It was an expensive car, just think of, it was expensive. I don't even want to say the price, but a very expensive car. And I was glad to just rip all the plastic from the car. But that car was costing me about like $500, $600 per month. And I was a college student. Most of the money I was making was going into the car. The insurance on it was about $300. And then gas was also, so $1,000 went into a car. That's pretty much almost 10 years ago, where instead of using that money to do other things, I was wasting my money on a car that made me look great. It's a few years later, 3-4 years later, I regretted that decision. It was a bad and terrible decision. No matter how rich you are, never buy a brand new car. That's my advice. Buy a second, hand car. It's much better with a low mileage, because a car, as soon as you drive it off the parking lot, we all know about this, it loses so much value so quickly, almost 30-40% of it on the first few miles, right? So the last thing you want is to take, your hard-earned money and buy something new that depreciates so fast. The car companies make money, you don't. And that's why they finance it with loans, because, somebody would never really use their own money to buy something new like this and lose so much money so fast. So the price is really inflated. So with that in mind, debt is a bad thing. If you can, the main takeaway from the whole book is debt is bad, right? So you don't want debt. Baby step 3 now, after you've done that, is improving your emergency fund. You want to have about 3 months to 6 months of emergency fund. So just think of your monthly expenses. How much do you need every month? Is it 1,000, 2,000, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30? Who knows, right? So assuming, you need $2,000 per month, it means that you need to have at least, between $6,000 to $12,000 in an emergency fund. It's money you don't touch, but it means that with that now you're at maybe step 3. So this is not about saving for a business, saving to buy another car, saving. No, this is emergency fund because, we live in a world of uncertainties and you always want to have money so that if the worst happens, you're fine. And that money may not be buying you another car that you can, a Porsche or a Ferrari that you can, drive around to show your friend, but it buys you peace of mind and it buys you stability. It allows you to ensure that no matter what happens, you will be able to stay on your feet and not become homeless and lose your, the dignity you have. So the emergency fund is baby step number 3. Once you've done that, baby step 4 is now 15% of your income needs to start going to your retirement. So you basically put 15% of your money into your 401k. So the other thing it really says is that don't try to do things out of order, where you try to save for retirement, but you have credit card debt, where you try to have an emergency fund, but you have credit card debt. It believes that you need to have $1,000 saved and the rest goes to paying off your debts. Like we said, small debt to the biggest debt, and then you do the emergency fund. Then you start saving for your 401k by putting 15% of your income. Assuming here in this case, you're already married, you have kids. The whole idea is that as soon as your kid is born, you need to start working on a college fund. The whole idea of a college fund is that it allows you to put money aside for your kids in college. The cost of college, I would say, typically goes around $57,000 for a kid, right? It could be that, it could be more if they go to a private school. But I would say if you save about $60,000 for your kids' college, for 4-year college, you've done great. Most of us, we never had that luxury, of not finishing school debt-free. But it's a gift that you can give your kids. If they finish school without debt, it's going to help them tremendously, because all of us have been burdened with college student loans that can come up, mess up your credit because you can't afford to pay them back. When you get your first jobs, you're really unstable because of that. It's something that when you allow your kids to leave your house educated with no debt, it's a great blessing, a very good blessing. And at the same time, also teaching them about credit so that they start their lives with good credit. Number 6 now, that's when you pay off your mortgage early. So even if it's a 30-year mortgage, don't wait 30 years. Now, all the extra money that you're making right there goes straight to your mortgage. So once you've done baby step 1 to baby step 6, what it means that you've already done a great deal paying off everything. So you don't have any debt. Now, baby step number 7, that's when you start building your wealth and also giving. So don't do things out of order. You do these things first, you become free. So it talks about the fact that the real rich people in America, they don't love debt. They don't love debt. The people who love debt, looking rich, bragging, I have this, I have that, feeling like I am somebody, while struggling and stressing. It comes with a cost. The cost is really a high level of stress. And the Total Makeover is basically a way for you to start understanding wealth and being rich as something where, it's not about the picture. It's not about Instagram. It's not about Facebook. It's not about a status where you show that you have a lot of money, or you just, you have nice clothes. It's about doing all these things, removing your debts, paying off your credit card debts, and then building wealth on top of that. So it's almost like for us who were born, like say I'm from Africa, it's almost like somebody in Africa, you had no debt, and when you own things, you actually own them. And when you have a house, it's actually yours. You're not worried about it, about losing that house, because it's yours. And those things, if you follow these baby steps, you can do them early and well. So what does he call them baby steps? The whole idea behind calling them baby steps is because as a baby, you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like you can get from here to there, but you need to, baby step 1 allows you to do baby step 2 and 3 and vice versa. So those allow you to get to your goals, right? And a lot of us, we want to get rich right away. A business that booms, investing in the stock market, a job that will pay me, 6 figures and all that. But you can do all those things, make millions. But if you have debt is a bad thing. So we need to rewire our brains because there is a lot of bad marketing about, you need to build credit. It means you need to have debt. No, as we've talked in other videos, you can build credit by paying off your credit cards every month. Debt is bad. It's something to avoid. Think of debt as something that's negative. Yes, you need a mortgage loan to buy a house because typically most of us can't afford buying a house without, a loan. But when you can, even if you took a loan to get a car payment, when you pay that off, please don't try to trade that in and get another car. So look for a car that's going to last a while. After you've paid that off, if you can start owning your cars for 10 years, that's a great thing. 20 years, that's even better. The people with a lot of money, they own the cars for a long time. It's a mindset that will allow you to not put all your money into the car so that you can start saving. Most of us, a lot of people, they can brag about, I'm wearing Gucci, Versace, and whatnot. But it's more important to be able to brag about the fact that you have no credit card debts. That's a new way to brag. It's more important to be able to brag about your credit score. It's more important to be able to brag about your savings. It's more important to brag about the fact that, I've got to the point where 50% of my income is saved. I don't even need to touch it. That's the kind of bragging that's good. Not the bragging of somebody who, is taking on more debts, more credit cards, swiping, shopping, buying things they can't afford to impress people who don't really care anyway. And it's not like they love you more because you're showing off. It does not necessarily buy you the love. It may make you feel great, but in the end, it's hurting you. It's almost like you're taking poison slowly without knowing it. Debt is not good. And that's the moral of the story about the book, The Total Money Makeover. I enjoy reading this, and there's just so much that he talks about in this book. And I recommend anybody to take the audio book, listen to it while you're driving your car. Because if anything, I found the information that he shared very enlightening. And it's time for us to change our mindset about money so that we can build wealth the right way. Thank you very much for your time, and see you next time.